a number of these do make inroads into social media. But I have recently talked with Rhonda DeLong, and I'll just say, you all know Rhonda DeLong, and I hope you all hold her in high regard. She certainly would be here, but she is on vacation in the mountains in the west side of the country. That's why she's not here. But she and I have talked about the need for us to increase our social media and digital marketing campaign. I asked this board to consider an increase funding for her to evaluate that, and my plan, Trustee Mosip, is to develop a plan with her over the next several months and apprise the board of the steps in that process, much like you've seen me do in the kind of analysis and review of some other departments of our college.
Sure.
I do recognize, Trustee Mosip, that you do have some particular expertise on this front, and as long as you will continue as you've done, I'll probably be bouncing ideas off of you and getting your input. But as shallow as my answer is now, it is that I believe this is another repetition in what we've done historically. But please don't take it as an indication of how we plan to move forward in the future.
This would, though, probably be an increase from previous years based on the recent bond, right?
It would be a continued of an increase that was 1 year previous to the bond, to the millage.
Okay, sorry.
Trustee Barry.
I was planning to make some remarks regarding number 5. That's why I'm like, wait, he's talking about number 5. I know it's very difficult to find out what works and what doesn't work. That's why you try different things. I know that from experience with my own business. But I can tell you that with social media, and I'm pretty limited to Facebook, maybe once in a while on Twitter, I've been seeing him before, and a lot of the successes and a lot of your plans and your statements going out. So that's working. Print, we need to take a look at. I believe Comcast, once in a while, like late at night, I'm watching news or something, and I'll see a commercial. Guess what? Future students are not watching TV at that time of the day. So it is very difficult to see, hey, what's going to work, what's not going to work. But I think the team is on the right path. And it's close to $1 million that we're investing. So we need to take a look. If something is outdated, and maybe we should spend some more money on social media. Or I know Trustee Lane brought up that she's been seeing a lot more of our billboards. I know there was an issue there that we kind of straightened out. We did straighten out because I've seen them. But that's very difficult. It's very difficult to predict what works, what doesn't work.
Sure.
Yeah. And I remember the discussion that was had like about a year ago, and one of the guys that was working for us was working with Rhonda and said, we need to be on social media more, and
Right.
I've seen the fruit of that labor, so it's been very successful.
Trustee McDonald.
Is the effectiveness of the different avenues that we take in media buys measured in any way, like when a student applies or when a student?
How did you hear about us?
Right, how
kind
did
of
you hear about it,
survey?
something like that? Is there a survey, is there a way that we measure that effectiveness?
I don't know the answer to that. Do any staff members know the answer to that? I don't know the answer, but I'll be happy to give you some feedback when Rhonda is near a cell signal.
Okay. I have one more real quick question, and I'm assuming, when I was reading the information this weekend, I realized that the numbers didn't quite match as to what we were spending and what I think it was what the action item, and I'm assuming that's because we hadn't spent that yet, but it was dedicated to media buys, is that correct?
Help me locate the discrepancy.
I can't find it, I've been
Oh, okay.
looking here, but I saw it and I'm assuming that's what it was. We're planning on spending this, but this is how much we've already spent.
You mean the difference between the 891 and 998,000?
Yes, I think that was it.
I think I saw a report, not part of this, but I saw a report last month
Okay,
that actually broke down what we spend on print.
okay.
Like the different newspapers. I think that might be the difference. Don't quote me on that. But just
I'm sorry, I can't find the discrepancy.
It's not here.
But
It's
I
not here.
remember you
But,
saw it
I mean, it
too.
says right here 998. Yeah, I saw it.
Okay,
Then if you add all these up right here, it's 891,000.
Right.
So it's about about 100,000. I don't see how much we spent on print here. At least these tired eyes are not seeing it. They're not there. I
Okay.
think that might be what.
So the difference was between where it says the college plans to invest $998, and
the
if you add
actual-
up all of
Yeah, so
the,
actually it's added up. I added them
Oh, okay.
earlier, but it isn't in the
891.
report,
so yeah, that's the discrepancy I was looking
Yeah.
at.
Trustee McDonald, I'll find an answer for you, but I do feel confident that the action item that has been motioned and seconded and is now under review for a vote would be for the listed items that are
Okay.
precise.
Okay.
That's what it would
I'm
be,
good with
yes.
that. Yeah,
it
it
would
would
have to
be
be.
that.
Trustee Moses, did you have one?
I just had the same
Okay,
question.
Same
that,
question, okay.
Trustee McDonald had. I mean, now these days you can really figure out how this student heard about HFC through, especially if you're using social media. That lead will tell you if that person was coming through this ad or through this ad. The data is very sophisticated, and those analytics will really tell you. So, but I hope that we're owning this in-house and that we're not giving it to a third party where they do their ad and then they tell you their data.
Because they're gonna tell you what.
Yeah, they may work the numbers, but I
Yeah.
hope that our marketing department is doing the actual kind of buy-ins. If they're buying something, for example, ads on Instagram for students who are ages between 18 and 20, and they're doing it in Southeast Michigan. So they'll be able to know how many students clicked on the ad. They'll be able to
And
know.
I think they are able to generate that, yeah,
Right.
they
So,
can,
and
they've
if a student would
given
go
us
to the
those
admissions
numbers in the
site
past.
and start applying, it would say the student came from this URL or from this network. So it's mind-boggling. So
And Trustee Berry, in regards to the TV commercials and ads and the timing of those, I did ask Ms. DeLong about that because I was seeing them at kind of odd times too. Being a senior citizen, you don't sleep as well at night. So 3 o'clock in the
Senior
morning.
citizen, do we have any, we don't have any of those on this board.
3 o'clock in the morning is, so what I was told was that they just pay for an amount for advertisement, and then it's up to the station to decide where they throw it out there.
You're
That's
gonna
what
get
I'm
so
saying.
much in
So
prime time,
you get so much,
early,
right,
and-
Yeah.
so you kind of get the hit or miss shotgun shatter of where sometimes you get a really good collection of times and
And that's
sometimes
the
you
point
get
I'm
some,
making,
yeah.
is if it's Comcast or, nothing against Comcast, but if it's, TV ads or print ads, kind of work, but social media is working, we need to kind of shift.
How much we
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
focus the
Right.
financial, yes, okay.
because I would see, older folks watching TV, my age people right now that don't really watch TV. They're on Netflix. They're on.
Well, we
other
do have
networks where-
older students too.
So
I just
I-
want,
I- I
I don't
do
want to,
acknowledge
I
that.
don't want to
Be careful,
cast,
you don't
yeah.
wanna-
I do
don't
acknowledge
wanna-
Crossing lines there.
I do
We want
acknowledge
to
that.
reach out
And I
to them
say-
too.
And I say we do reach out to these, but we don't want to forget the big numbers.
We
that
need to
we're
have
missing
something
out.
on YouTube,
Right.
people are streaming it.
Okay, all right, are we done,
point.
are we done with this,
Sure.
conversation? Okay, are we ready to, vote? We have a motion and support. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, please attach a unanimous roll.
Thank you.
All right.
Board of
next item.
Trustee business, acknowledgement of correspondence.
All right, I'm acknowledging on behalf of the entire board, because I think the entire board got both items. I know I talked to Trustee Lane about it as well, and she wanted to make sure that we had seen it. We got a letter from 1650 and John McDonald. If somebody did not get it, I will make sure that you see the copy. And it had a lot of references to our last meeting and some of the things that were said. There was some criticism of some of the things that were said by the board members and some insights by 1650. So I wanted to acknowledge that. And then we also got from John McDonald a request for naming a part of our college facilities. Now, I do know we have, and I can't look at it because I don't have the proper authority to look at the procedure that we do for the naming of, it's under our policies, but then when you hit the procedure link, I'm not allowed to access it. So I don't know, I know that we have a process for, naming, and I don't know, I want to submit this to you, to move this forward, at the request and go through the proper procedures to then come back, it will come back before the board, to be approved or not. And that's all the correspondence I have for the college. Does anybody else? Yes, Trustee Barry?
I had somebody drop off 2 letters in my office today. And, it's a gentleman that I've spoke to, but has nothing to do with the college. He thought he was at the public school meeting today.
Oh,
He doesn't know we reverse them, so I didn't get a chance when I saw you outside is when I was actually reading them, because I just picked
Okay.
them up from the office and get a chance. I will finish reading them, scan
so
them,
they're for next week.
send them to you with
Okay.
Dr. Maleko.
And
Dr.
Joe,
Maleko can
yeah,
put it in
have
the
them.
Notes, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
okay, very good.
I received a note in my packet today from a staff member here, Jill Sestak, if I'm pronouncing that right, I hope, and making me one of the Hawk Heroes based on the Taste of Dearborn, where I gave away tickets to the event. It's one of those things where we're not doing this for recognition, but everybody likes a little positive recognition occasionally for what they are doing and doing well, so I appreciate it.
Very nice.
Yeah, may I make a comment about that?
Yes.
That's a surprise to me that that happened, but it's a happy surprise.
Did somebody send something nice to me?
No, that, no. It's a surprise to me that I wasn't aware that you received that commendation, and I'm glad that the staff did recognize that. And I think I made a public comment about this to board
You did.
Yes.
board meeting. But I just want to reiterate to anyone who doesn't remember. Trustee Thorpe contacted my office and asked that we find a way to make as much as possible any staff member and guests of the college to gain access to the Taste of Dearborn. And we had a healthy response, and the message that went out to staff was that there were a couple things I want board members to know. One was Trustee Thorpe made it clear this was appreciation from the board for the hard work that goes on from the staff and faculty at Henry Ford College, but also inviting and incentivizing engagement with the Dearborn community. That's something that I take seriously, and I really appreciate Trustee Thorpe incentivizing it.
It was a wonderful gesture. I didn't get one, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know, I realized that too late, sorry.
No, none of his colleagues got it. But, no, I agree with President Cavalluna that it's a wonderful way for the community here to get into the community at large and see what is out there in Dearborn, because this is an opportunity that you might have missed some great experiences if you didn't think about participating. So I'm glad that it was offered. Got to see a little different side of Dearborn. Yes, Trustee Barry.
Just going through my phone, I'm glad I remembered. During homecoming, they had the Ford Astrology Club at the top of the hill. And I started talking to a gentleman by the name of Jim Campbell. He's part of the club. He was so thankful that Henry Ford College allows them to come here once a month, the group, and meet. I got a chance to look into this telescope. It's about this big as this table, and I looked up and said, "What am I looking at?" And my niece, 11 years old, took a peek, and she says, "That's Saturn." She knew right away. I didn't know what I was looking for, but yeah, it was. There was
She's
a lot
one of our dual enrolled students.
Not yet. She's on her way, but yeah. But yeah, he was very thankful, and the whole club was very thankful that Henry Ford opens their doors to them. So I'm glad I remembered to mention that. I told him I would. I was just glad. Just remembered. That's it. That's all I have.
All right. All right, next item, please.
Board committee reports.
Okay, I have one. The policy committee meeting met right before this meeting. We had a few things to discuss. One, this is the end product of 7 years of work, and it is a policy. That's
I don't know
feedback.
why
It's
this
driving
is
me
Can
crazy.
Mary mute her phone? Pardon? If she mutes her phone, maybe the echo will go away.
It's a policy related to institutional review board, and what that is, it is to protect the health, the safety, and the privacy of individuals engaged in human research. Now, before anybody panics, that is basically related to social studies, that kind of human research. And,
Not laying somebody on the table.
Exactly. And I guess lots of institutions in the area, colleges and universities, are going through the same thing and developing such policies. Again, this is a 7-year, this has been in the works for 7 years. Sometimes we have doctoral students that come from another institution and may want to conduct a study with our students. So this is a policy, it's a draft of a policy that basically tells how that is to be handled. So that was one thing that we discussed. We also discussed the new format of bylaws. The Higher Learning Commission, when they came in 2015, they recommended that we update our bylaws and our policies. We've been working on updating the policies. The bylaws have been kind of a hodgepodge or a mishmash of things. As they come, we add them, and so we wanted to have a format that is more user-friendly. So we're going to start out with changing the format, so instead of the piecemeal that we have together, that it's
Format
For the
online
bylaws.
or of how
they're represented, how they're presented.
how they're presented.
How they're presented.
Right, okay.
So
So you're not
that's-
going to actually change at this point, you're just talking about how they're organized?
We're organizing them differently, changing the format, and then we do need to update all of them, so we're going to be doing them a little at a time, but
Okay.
starting with, we're gonna have to approve a format, that we're changing the format. So that's where we're starting, and then we will be approving them a little time. The Higher Learning Commission is due to be back in November. Chances of us finishing them is nil, but we shouldn't have an issue as long as they realize that we are working on it, and, you know, this is something that takes some time, and we are working diligently. We also discussed an ongoing topic of filling a vacancy of a board member. It's just an ongoing conversation that we have, and we're still looking at how we want to address that. So we may end up having a meeting of the entire board.
Like a board,
A
a
board
study
retreat or
session?
study session, but we're going to, before we do that, we are going to, as a committee, see if we can, like, whittle it down a little bit and come up with some thoughts. But as you delve into this issue, it is complex, and there's a lot of things to consider, so, but we're working on it. And we also discussed the flag policy. The subcommittee, it was brought to our attention, I believe two months ago, that perhaps we could have a policy with a flag that would represent different groups on
Different
campus,
events,
different
different-
events, things like that. Flagpole. Yes, a flagpole. So we, as a committee, as a subcommittee, we have directed President Cavaluna to come up with a policy that we will review pertaining to that. But a couple of things that, as a committee, that we wanted to make sure was included is that the primary flags on the campus, the ones in front of the building and in front of the Welcome Center, those flags are for the state flag, the campus banner,
US
and the US
flag.
flag. So those are specific, those flagpoles are specific for those purposes. So that was kind of the guideline that we gave President Cavaluna to conduct a policy, but we wanted to make sure that those particular flags were used for those purposes.
Okay, thank you.
So, that's it.
I want to piggyback on, because I gave you a task to do before, looking about including in our policies about it, board requests for information. And then it turned out that you discovered, and I did look, and it's the exact same we already have a board policy on this. It's in both the P12 and the college, and it's under agenda. And just so that everybody who isn't familiar with it, this one section addresses what we were referring to, where it says board members shall be as considerate as possible about asking staff to prepare detailed reports and information not previous planned for preparation. Such report shall be requested only when board members believe such a report is essential to his or her understanding of a problem. When heavy pressure is on staff members due to the demands of district business and concerns, board members shall seek the concurrence of the board before requesting the preparation of such additional detailed report. So essentially what it's saying is that if a board member is looking for information, and it's going to require a lot of investment of time, of personnel, that we want to make sure that if that comes to our attention, that that there's basically an agreement of the board that yes, that's information that would be useful to the entire board, so that time is not taken up away from their regular job duties in preparing a report that only one board member has any interest in. So I just want to, it's already in our board policies.
I have the number on my phone do you have the number?
Yeah.
I know
This
it's
one
under
is
agendas.
board policy 0166. It's under our bylaws.
Under bylaws, under agenda.
It's under board meetings, I think,
Yeah,
and then the agenda.
is the subheader.
Right. So I just wanted to let everybody know, so that's going to be taken off of the policy committee's
To-do list?
to-do list, yeah. Unless when you're looking at the whole bylaws thing, you revisit it again. All right then. Are there any other committees reports?
Just a question for the policy, also on appointing new board members. Do we have timeline of that will change, if possible, even before the next elections next year, if we have that policy changed or set?
We're working on it as soon as possible. I had wanted
You might want
to,
to talk to the mic,
oh,
sorry.
I had wanted to finish this before my term as committee chair is over. So it's one of my goals. I don't know for sure if I'm going to be able to do that, because like I said, as I'm delving into it, there's a lot of other things that come up. But that is my goal, to have it finished by the end of the year. And so plan on sometime in the fall, perhaps having some
A
kind of
study session.
study
Yes.
session.
I
So we
can
can-
call for that if we think that might be a reasonable way to have the conversation, so that we know that we're going in a direction that makes sense or not.
Right.
I agree.
So,
Thank you.
All right. Next item, please.
Requests for information and/or future agenda items.
Now that I just read the,
You scared us.
nobody
can't
asked for anything. Well, I actually do have something I'm gonna be sending to all the board members, and it also is in our manual, but I downloaded it so I could just send it to you all. There already is, because when we went to our conference to Philadelphia, I went to a couple of different on
Session.
sessions on board evaluations, self-evaluations. And then I found out, after having conversation with a former board member, that they already had it, and I looked under, lo and behold, under our form manuals, there is a form in there that has that they had developed years ago, and we're supposed to be doing every year, but nobody was doing it. So as board president this year, I'm going to ask us all to fill this out. It's the evaluation of board effectiveness. After we fill it out and submit it, my understanding was from the former board member that they usually tweaked it when they discovered that there were some questions that were obsolete or wanted to change. But I wanted to get this started because we haven't evaluated ourselves in quite a while. And I think it's something that we really need to consider doing, just because, it's good policy that we take an internal look at the jobs we're doing and how effective we are. So I will be sending this, so look for it in your emails to do, and I will give you the timeline that I think, that we should be able to get it back and have the conversation. We might even include that as part of the study session as well, to have that conversation. Yes.
Just a couple of things I wanted to ask about that. You're saying that it's not in policy or bylaws or anywhere, it was just in a form?
In the
It's
form,
written.
yes, yes.
So we weren't necessarily, wasn't a policy that we had to do it, it just kind of got lost as a form?
Yeah.
So that's where we'll find it?
Under, yeah, when you go to our policies and guidelines, there's a header first, and
Right.
it says bylaws, form manual, and policies and administrative guidelines. And it's just under forms, and there's only 3 things under, and I think one of them isn't even in existence. I think it's disappeared, so
Okay.
there isn't a lot.
I agree that we do as a board need to evaluate ourselves again, or evaluate ourselves, period. So, I think that might be a good thing. that we could
It's a
add to-
starting place,
Absolutely. So-
if nothing else. Yes, Trustee Barry?
I know Trustee Moser was, throwing a little humor in there, saying, I know you scared us, but, and I was gonna wait till next week, because the discussion we're having is probably pertains to request for information on the other side of Michigan Avenue. But how do you see that playing out? Let's say, if I have a question and I ask for information, how do you see that? Do I have to put a case why I'm asking for information? Are we gonna take a vote on it if we're gonna move forward requesting that information?
I believe in the past, when this was first developed, that, because there was a lot of requests going on, from somebody, I'm not gonna name names, it was a long time ago, that the superintendent at that time felt overwhelmed, in trying to accommodate the questions, and they weren't certain that the questions were going anywhere, and it was taking a lot of people away from their
Personnel time.
duties. Yeah. So when it was put forth at that time, there was, the question was put forth at the table, and then my understanding was it wasn't a formal motion, but there was an informal show of hands, how many people were interested. I actually think we did it when I was on the board in 2008. An informal show of hands, how many people were interested in that information.
Is that for
Excuse me.
each one, or is that if you're just assuming that it's something that's gonna
I
take a lot of
think
time?
it's something that was gonna be a real, time-intensive kind of, request.
So as being a board member and suppose.
I'm just telling you what's in
No,
the,
I
yeah.
understand, I'm just trying to, just in case, because probably sometime in the near future we'll be asking for things. Being a board member, and we saw ourselves as independent thinkers, and if I feel I need this information to probably bring up a subject to the full board, and I have to wait to see the data, and might look at the data and say, okay, maybe that wasn't where this was going, or, oh, wow, we need to talk about this. Why would we stop that that early? Maybe we have to revisit that policy, obviously. I would like to think so.
Well, my thought would be that whenever any board member is requesting some information that is gonna be time-consuming, it should be, clear enough as to what kind of information you're seeking and why, so that the rest of the board can say, yeah, you're right, we need to look at that. And then you would have the support of the board.
Fair enough.
That's what I'm assuming how it would operate. Like I said, this was something that was developed before my
I
time.
just don't want that policy used to
Hinder
quote-unquote,
somebody from, yeah, and I
intimidate,
think we're all
back off.
reasonable people
yeah.
that we wouldn't want to, and so if it's something reasonable,
Okay.
Here's how I would suggest, and this is just my thinking about it, is that, because a lot of us just ask questions on the side a lot of times. Something will come up and we'll give a call to the superintendent or the president and say, hey, how hard is it to get this information? If they say it's not a big deal, I can get that to you, next week kind of thing, or whenever, that's fine. Or when the question is posed here. Whenever a question is asked for some information or an additional report, and the superintendent or the president looks to the board, chair, or the board president at the P12 side, and says, I'm not certain I can give this in a timely fashion without incorporating a lot of effort kind of thing. How many people, should we ask how many people? And then it would go to a question to the full board, how many people want
And the
that?
person asking for information
Right.
probably has to put up a case why he or
Why
she
he,
is asking.
yeah,
Okay,
right.
fair enough.
Well, I think trustee Moses.
I think you already covered it, Madam Chair. I was just saying to remind myself first and others that when we're asking for information, that we're asking very concise and very straight to the point, so the staff members who are gonna be working on it are not gonna give us like grand information that we don't really
Right.
need, and they spend their time.
Right.
And it would be unfair to them, that we would ask for some information that we're looking for, and then they give us something else. And it would be unfair for
Right.
both parties. So that we're kind of concise and very specific to what we're asking for. And if it's, I do agree, if it's something major, then we may need the full board approval to
To
go
move it forward.
Yes.
Yes. Trustee.
That was
Yeah.
basically my comment as well, because sometimes as a board, we ask for something, we don't understand how time consuming it is to gather that information, but also because they want to give us what we are asking for, they will give us rubs of information when we might just be looking for this piece.
Right,
So
right.
I think that's a
Just
good
get us the
point, yeah.
information that we need, definitely. So,
And we want to know whether it's going to go anywhere. Is it, are we making people spin their wheels, or is it, this is going to, there's going to be some kind of follow through with the information?
One,
Because- Yes,
sorry.
trustee Thorpe.
The one thing I would add is this. There are times where I will ask for information that I know has been presented to us at some point in the past,
So it's easily,
but I can't recall it.
Right.
Now, I don't know if we have a central database for our meetings where we can do some type of search, and we can look through the minutes and just say, all right, this is what I was looking for, and then maybe we don't even need to ask. Do we have anything like that right now?
no.
At the college, we used to have the old minutes and books.
we have the minutes posted
Yeah.
online.
Right.
The specific reports that we currently have.
Some type of way that, I mean, I
Like
don't
the
think it's a
Peter-
It's not
searchable field
searchable,
yet for
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
You mean like the Peter 12 where we're searching the board briefs or meeting minutes?
Well, even that, I'll just give an example. Last week I was asked by somebody about the age of one of our school buildings. So I thought, oh, well, we must have just all the ages all on one master list. So when I called Dave Mustin and said, can you get me, he had to go through, and I figured because we just had an infrastructure committee and Plant Moran and everything, I said, oh, they must have just one. Well, no, that's not what they had. And I said, listen, if this is gonna be a big headache, don't, do it kind of thing. He did pull it together, and I said, well, now it's accessible for all of us. Because now we're gonna be talking about a millage, and people are asking, how old is this building? How old is this building? Are we, so now we do have access to it. But I assumed, because we had just had all these studies done and committees and everything, that it had already been put together, and it hadn't. So, yes, we make a lot of assumptions that things are, in this day and age, are very readily available, and sometimes it's not the case.
So pop quiz, Madam Chair. Which one is older, Salina or Duval? Because there is a debate about that.
So I know.
I didn't share the list with everybody. I will share the list with everybody. And actually, David put it in order.